Awesome. So we're live. Welcome anybody who ends up tuning in, watching live and listening here. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday night. I'm obviously joined with really special guest, Emily. Super excited to finally be able to do this interview because we were just talking before we went live that we had been trying to do this for maybe even a couple of months.
Mhm.
And it was just like scheduling was just not working out. And we finally found a time to do it. And we were talking about like the first time we tried to do it, you were down like 40 pounds at that point. And
Yeah,
now, a couple months later, now you're down like 50, 55 pounds. So it's just like
yeah,
maybe if we would have waited, you would have been down even more. So, um,
right.
but really excited to have you on here. So, obviously, Emily's here with me. We're going to talk about her journey of losing, 55 pounds so far, and I know, there's still more she wants to accomplish, and she's not really showing any signs of slowing down so far, which is pretty incredible. Um, uh, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight her story, and because I think there are a lot of like similar reasons as to why you want to do this, compared to
Mhm,
like my situation growing up.
mhm.
So I think it's really cool seeing you like transform the way you have over this past like little bit over a year so far. So Emily, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from, any fun facts about you, what you do for a living. Um, yeah, any pets, which I know you have pets, but tell
Yes, I do.
tell the audience.
All right, I live in Norwalk. I got married just a little under 2 years ago to my husband, Andrew. We have a dog named Walter. He is a beagle mix, so he's so much energy and crazy dog. Um, Not much about myself. I don't know. Um,
I love Walter. I love that name so much. I remember you telling me, well, like when we first talked, that his name was Walter, and I was like, wow, that's a perfect name for a
yeah,
dog. What kind of dog is it again?
he's a beagle border collie.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Well, Emily, so obviously, the title of this is how you lost 55 pounds, so people are going to
Mhm,
see that. But um, tell everyone, like, before you signed on, this was, like I said, it was over a little over a year ago. Looking
mhm.
back at your spreadsheet now, and when we started, and it was July of last year, July of 2022. So tell me and tell everyone else, like, where were you at that point, July of 2022, or leading up to that point? Um, with your health, with your weight loss, and what like prompted you to reach out and sign up for this program, or actually take us back to like your struggles growing up, maybe, and give us some background there.
Struggles growing up. Um, I didn't eat the healthiest. I mean, we didn't have the greatest of eating habits. Um, I'm built like my dad. So, I love my dad, but his genes aren't great. But we never really we ate healthy, I guess, but it wasn't like anything strict. It was we ate what mom and dad made for dinner, and it was never, oh, you're only allowed to have one plate. Like eat whatever you want. And, I was talking to my mom about it today. It's like I've always liked food and the act of eating. I've always enjoyed it. And so, I've never enjoyed food. I've just eaten as much as I can. And it's just that's always been my biggest struggle is not knowing when to stop, because I should have stopped half hour ago, but I'm not full for another hour. I don't feel it. But started drinking pop when we were probably way too young, so that's always been an issue. But we were never like super unhealthy, but we weren't healthy either. It was just mom and dad made dinner and you ate what they made, and that's just how it started.
Yeah, and I remember like when we first talked, on our first phone or Zoom call, that like that was a big reason why you were interested in this program, was because
Mhm,
like myself, like I didn't grow up with great eating habits either, and I grew
mhm,
up, overweight and self-conscious and not happy with, where my health was, or where,
mhm,
how I looked. And I saw my parents struggle with health issues too, and I think that was something that you mentioned too on the first call. Am I right on that?
Yeah, yeah. My mom, she's always been healthier. It's my dad who's kind of had the health issues. And, looking at our lives kind of side by side, I'm like, ooh, I can see where that's, happening. And, so just trying to fix that now before it's too late, for myself.
hmm Yeah, and
Mhm.
what kind of things did you like? Did you see your dad struggle with health issues like at a young age? Then, like you were at a young age and you saw that.
He's always had like heart issues. And that just runs in our family. But I remember he's got AFib, and so he would be in the hospital for a couple of days at a time here or there. And just I remember being really fearful of that. And I may end up having heart problems anyway, but like if I can do anything to like stave it off as long as possible, you know, then I want to do that. But I
Yeah.
remember like he's never been like awful, but like I just, he's been in pain and back problems and joint problems and all that stuff. It's been since I was a little kid.
Yeah, yeah, and like I saw the same thing with my parents that you kind of described, and it almost becomes like at first you kind of think it's normal. You think it's normal to
Mhm.
like to have those issues all the time, even if you're not like super old age, but it doesn't have to be that way. And
Right.
I really like what you said there of these types of issues maybe run in the family or maybe they're partially genetic, which heart issues definitely runs in my family too,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean we can't still take control over what we can control
Yeah.
to prevent that as much as possible. Like you can change the like how your genes are displayed based off of, how
Mhm.
you take care of yourself. And that could ultimately like when you have kids and, other kids, more kids can change their genes too going forward too. So
Mhm.
I feel like you were like when we had that first call, you really were all in on, I want to be different for myself, or I want to, have something better for myself regarding your health.
Mhm. Yeah, and a big part of it was, you know, Andrew and I had only been married for, I don't know, 8 months at the time, and I never thought I would have, a significant other, and I've joked, it's like, "Listen, we're gonna have to let go at the same time because I don't want you to live without me and me live without you," and now that I have that person that loves me for me, he loved me at my heaviest, and he's loving me through this whole journey. I want to be in this marriage with him as long as I can, and I wasn't healthy when we got married, so he
Yeah.
was a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you have that partnership, right? You want to be around as long as possible for them and you want
Mhm.
them to be around as long as possible for you. And
Yeah.
then like, even, in the future, if like kids are ever in your future or anyone listening, like being around for them, like that's been a big motivator for
Mhm.
me to get in better shape, even myself, and get my diet a little bit more in check than what it was before. Like having my son, like I don't want
Mhm.
to, have a heart attack in my 40s or 50s and, you
Right.
know, be gone and not see him go through life.
Mhm.
So, um, all super important stuff. Um, so you were growing up with these poor eating habits and everything. Did you struggle with, your weight or your self-image or anything like that, like growing up, like through like middle school, high school, like kind of go through that story and how that was for you?
I have struggled since forever. I always had friends who were skinnier or, more athletic than I was. And I was kind of like out of breath after, jogging for 14 seconds or something. And so I struggle with that. And like all of my friends always were able to dress so cute and girly. And I was like, I'm wearing jeans and a t shirt because that's all I'm comfortable in, and it's been since I was a kid. Is I've always felt that I'm like, oh, I'm not as skinny, and I can't dress as girly as all these other people in my life, and I just, I accepted that as that's who I was and that's how it was gonna be, for a long time.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you kind of decided like this is just who I am, as a person, as
Mhm.
someone who's maybe out of shape, overweight, doesn't really feel great
Mhm.
about their appearance. And you kind of accepted that at a young age. So kind of take us through like when or if did you ever try any like other weight loss attempts, like maybe outside of high school when you got a little bit older? Did you try to lose
Mhm.
weight there and try to make this change, or like kind of take us through that journey there too?
I specifically remember, it was my senior year, and I was in this choir group, and we like had special dresses and tuxes, and we went and whatever. And I was so fearful of my dress not fitting that, like, I don't know, you probably heard of it. It's called the apple diet. I did that for about a week. I ate apples and I drank water so I could lose 5 pounds. So I like made sure I fit in the dress and I didn't have to pay for alterations. And I remember that being like the first thing I ever really tried, and it worked. And I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. I've never done it again, thank goodness. But, then I go off to college, and I kind of went through, I didn't kind of, I went through a really severe depression, and I ended up not eating enough. And I lost 20 pounds my first semester of college, um, which was awesome, but in hindsight, awful, because I
Hmm.
was starving my body. And yeah, I was fitting in smaller clothes, but I was like super unhealthy at 18, 19 years old. And then when I worked through all that and I got like prescribed medication at the time, then I gained everything back and then some, so because I finally had an appetite again and I could finally eat and enjoy that. But I've tried Weight Watchers, and that worked for a few months, and then I gained that back, and that was probably 7 years ago. I did that. I tried Noom for a little bit when that was like big and popular, just like a year or so ago, and that worked for a little bit, and then you kind of just like, I realized like I don't even think I'm talking to a real person. It's like a robot who doesn't care, and I
Yeah.
don't care. So then I stopped that. So, and I've tried cutting out sugars and doing low carb, and it always works for like this long, and then go right back to your old habits.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So you've been through it all. I mean, it sounds like an apple diet, which I don't know if I actually have heard of the apple diet
Oh
before.
man,
It sounds awful for sure, like
it,
you said.
it was
I've
not
heard of
fun.
like the boiled egg diet, which
Yeah.
is just as bad, but so you tried the apple diet, tried Weight Watchers, Noom, and something you said there was just like so important, and the difference between like having like being doing some like random diet where you're super
Mhm.
restrictive, and or doing some like program where, like you said, Noom, you thought it was maybe even a robot you were talking to or not even a real person. Like
Mhm.
doing something like that where you don't have someone in your corner who cares just as much as you, like what are you have nothing to lean on when you're in those moments where you don't care, like you
Yeah.
said, because there will be
Mhm.
moments where you don't really care that much because you're frustrated or you're just tired or there's a lot
Mhm.
going on in your life. So if you don't have like the person in your corner that like, okay, I don't care, but they care about my journey. So I'm going to
Mhm.
show up like for them a little bit,
Mhm.
this week or on this day, like
Yeah.
it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
So tried Noom, tried Weight Watchers, tried all these other diets. And then like take us to that like July then, like maybe a few weeks or a couple weeks before you signed on. Like when was the first time you actually even got introduced to my type of program or my program in general and like started considering it?
I somehow stumbled across your Facebook, and I kept seeing like these progress pictures. I'm like, holy crap. Like, that's impressive. All these random people that I don't know are being so successful. I'm like, well, what makes this different? And so I stumbled upon, whatever, followed, and just kind of watched from the background, just noticed what was going on. And um, then you made a post about giving away 6 months free. I think it was like in honor of your parents last year is what you did. And I remember that. And I was like, dang, because like I don't know, it just hit me in the heart, you know?
Mhm.
And I had recently really looked at my wedding photos right around that time, and I was devastated that my wedding dress didn't fit the way that it did when I bought it, and like I could tell that I had gained all of this weight before the wedding, and I was just so heartbroken with myself for letting myself go as far as I did. And so I saw your post about it and I was like, well, why not? Let's just try, see if I can whatever. If I don't get it, that's fine. I'll figure something else out. And so we had our conversation and then, you ended up giving someone the 6 months, but then you did partial scholarships and I got a partial scholarship. And that's what got me into it. But
Mhm. How long were
yeah,
you following, like, my page and seeing this stuff and kind of watching from the background before that time period happened?
for a while. I don't know the exact time frame, but I remember showing my mom. I was like, "Mom, look at this. This is amazing." And but I was afraid of like, well, I don't know what it means, and I don't know what you have to do, and but then when you made that post, I'm like, why not? Let's give it a
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. So it sounds like a big part of the reason why you decided to take that leap too was looking at those pictures and just not feeling great about those. And um uh so what kind of feelings, like, where were you then when you, like, describe a little bit more about, like, where you were before you did take advantage of that partial scholarship, like, mentally and physically?
Physically, I was at my biggest. Um, and I mean, I'll throw it out. I was over 300 pounds. And I never, ever in my life thought I'd ever let myself get there. Like I was like, oh, I'll fix it before it gets, too far. And, but I let myself go. I was happy in my marriage, but like mentally I was depressed and anxious and, I overthink and just not happy with myself and still kind of second guessing like I'm married to this great guy. It's like, well, when's the shoe gonna drop? When's he gonna look at me and be like, oh, you were 20 pounds smaller when I met you or whatever. And so I was in a weird headspace, where I let our like happy marriage, like, let's go out to dinner and let's eat pizza and let's snack all the time. And, just kind of letting myself be in that happy bubble and, distract my brain in my happy bubble, but still having those issues that I wasn't going to face head on. And that's how the weight happened, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
but
So you were at this point where you were the heaviest that you've ever been, and it sounds like, there was a lot of insecurity there around just even like your relationship, just like,
mhm,
not feeling like you had that self-worth of like, is this person gonna eventually want to leave me because,
mhm,
I'm not healthy, or I'm not in great shape, or I'm not this or that. Um, so what, like, made you pull the trigger then and do the partial scholarship and, sign up, like, officially? Like, what made you, was it something you saw that I post about that really, like, made you cross that line, or
I don't think it was anything that you posted. I think it was, you know, you made the post about giving away the 6 months. And I just started thinking about it and I really started thinking about my future and the future children I want to have. And, I want to be a healthy mom that can run around with her kids and not like sit on the park bench and watch them, across. I want to be able to be in the thick of motherhood one day and not let my own life choices stop me from being a part of it. And I like the only way that I can get there is if I made life changes. And I figured if this person cares enough, to help me through it, at my lowest and, motivate me and push me and be there, I was like, if I have a chance doing that, I'm like, of course I'm going to try, and I think it was just the thought of what's my next 10 years going to look like? And if I kept going down the road I was going, wasn't going to look very pretty.
Yeah.
So I think it was that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point and realization that you had, because I think a lot of people, when they're faced with this like choice or opportunity to like go all in and take the leap and sign up for a program like this, they're thinking so short term of like, okay, the
Mhm.
next few months and what those are going to look like, or the next, even 6 months. And they think, okay, if I don't make this change right now, in the next few months, where am I going to be? Probably in the same spot I am now, maybe a little bit worse off, but it's not going to be that bad, right? They've
Mhm.
adjusted to life, and they've adjusted their expectations to, how unhealthy they feel or
Mhm.
whatever in this current state, that like in a few months, if they don't change anything, it realistically probably won't get that much worse than what it is now. But
Mhm.
you were thinking more long term. And if most people thought long term when they're faced with this decision, they probably would realize like if they continued on how they were for the next 5 to 10 years, they would be much worse off. And
Yeah.
like being able to face that reality, I think like if I continue these behaviors in 10 more years, am I going to be, 20 pounds heavier? Maybe. Am I going to actually start having blood pressure issues, heart issues, diabetes? Some people probably, if they don't make the change
Mhm.
now. So I like that you thought more long term into the distant future versus just like short term. Because if we're always
Yeah.
just focused on the short term, it's so easy to get comfortable with like not being, in a healthy spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So were you like when you did pull that trigger and you signed on and we were getting you all set up, like how did you feel? Were you like skeptical, scary, or
I
scared,
was
nervous?
I was nervous. I was I don't know if I was super skeptical, maybe a little bit. But I was nervous because like it felt like I was like, all right, here's my life. I'm gonna trust you with it for a minute to like help me. So I was very nervous. I was excited just to, do 6 months to see how that was gonna go. But I was very nervous and yeah, no. I little skeptical that it was gonna work, but I had my hope.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, and I think you should be, and I've said this a million times, I think you should be nervous when you do sign up for our program. Like, I think you should
Mhm.
be a little nervous and you should be a little, I guess, scared, in a sense. But I think, like, this is something that I've read multiple times or heard multiple people say is that feeling of like feeling scared, feeling nervous. It's the same feeling that you usually get when you're like just like super excited for something too. And I think like, I've read multiple times to try to retrain your brain to think, oh, I'm not really nervous or scared. I'm just like excited because this is something
Mhm.
like new. And I'm like, excited for like the possibility of, what can come out of this. Um, uh, so it sounds like you weren't super skeptical. So you did have trust in me to like help you achieve this. What do you think was that deciding factor that did help you have trust in me? Was it like all the progress pictures you said you saw or anything specific?
I think that was a big part of it is every time I saw something, I'm like, that's amazing. Like it's clearly working, whatever. Cause I wasn't sure what it was that all these people were doing. But it was just like, well, if they can do it, then maybe I can do it, that kind of mindset.
Mhm. So where are you at now then? Like fast forward, you signed up for the program, you were very nervous, a little skeptical, but mostly just nervous. And now like over a year has gone and you're down 55 pounds. Kind of tell us a little bit more of like where are you at, not only obviously with the weight loss, but where else physically have you seen your body like change or feel differently, and then mentally and psychologically, like where are you at now?
So mentally and psychologically, I am at my best I've ever been. I am no longer on any like antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, which is amazing because I was on them for a very long time. And, so the fact that yeah, I still have those dips of depression and anxiety, and I have some issues. Like, I'm now, like, mentally fit and emotionally fit to work through them and not totally let just everything, get ruined and messed up from it. Which is awesome. I've been going to therapy for 9 years, and I only go every 3 months now. So that's even better. But physically, I don't get winded as fast. I can play with my nieces and nephews for way longer than I could before. Um, my clothes keep getting too big, so I finally went shopping again recently. I feel better. I look at pictures of myself, not that I take many, but my face has slimmed down so much than where it was a little over a year ago. I feel more confident and happy in the person that I am, not only on the outside but on the inside. Like, it's a package deal now. Like, I'm not there's no facade, I'm a happy person now. Like, it's unexplainable almost where I'm at physically and mentally. Like, it's just all very good.
Yeah, and like, if you have any idea, I'm curious, what do you think has been like the biggest contributing factor as to like you f- being able to come off those anxiety and depression medications and you feeling like you're able to work through those things
Mhm.
without that.
I have a great support system in my husband, for one. He is a great sounding board for things, and it's always like, do you want advice or do you need to vent? It's not, let me try and fix this. It's sometimes he just knows he needs to listen. And I'm the same way with him. But I got to the point where I was like, I don't want this to be a lifelong need, to take all these medications that I was on, um, because also future, I was thinking about, well, one day I'm gonna get pregnant and I'm not gonna be able to be on them. So let's try and face those demons now, while I'm not pregnant or trying to get and start a family, and let's try and do that now. And so he and I talked about it long and hard, just deciding, is this the right time? I talked with my doctor and my therapist, and, you know, we took myself off the correct way. And, just when something would come up, I'd be like, all right, let's figure this out. Let's not turn to another crutch. Let's work this through and, take it day by day.
Yeah. So how do you feel like, if at all, like you might not feel this way, but do you feel like this program helped you work through those things in some way?
Yes. Like, no doubt.
So I guess my question then is, how do you feel like what about the program do you think helped you to be able to work through those things that way?
A big part of it is the fact that there's a real person. It may just be through messaging and, voice message or whatever, but like, there is a literal person on the other side of my phone that checks in on me and, I guess tells me what to do every week, and kind of takes that stress off of, well, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do it. But there's a real person who cares, and you don't just feel like a number. You don't feel like a statistic, you feel like a person, and you're not talking to a robot.
Yeah, that's a plus. No, I love that. I think you said like so many really good things in there. One thing I wanted to highlight too was just like you mentioned, it's so nice to not have the stress and anxiety of trying to figure this out on your own. And I was just having a conversation with someone else who applied for this giveaway. Um, and she was talking about how she's spent like how many hours the past few weeks trying to figure this out on her own, and the past few
Mhm,
years even trying to figure out on her own. And it's like, if you spend enough hours and enough time trying to learn how to lose weight on your own, you might eventually get there. But
mhm.
it's going to take so many hours, so much time for you to
Mhm.
finally like learn the knowledge of how to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then you have only yourself to rely on. You don't have like an actual person to talk to for support when you have weeks or you're second guessing the process, or like, oh, the scale didn't move like on this
Mhm.
day. Like I'm feeling bummed. And if you were just relying on yourself, you would either give up or be like, oh, this isn't working, or maybe change something when something doesn't actually need to be changed and then make it
Mhm.
10 times harder on yourself for no reason. And then, because it's so much harder on yourself, then you're kind of forced to give up.
Yeah.
So like, I think just taking that stress away and you just having to worry about, okay, this is the plan. Let me just execute the plan, and kind of taking that headspace away from that probably helped out a lot. Um, and then obviously, like you said, having a person, not a robot, uh, to talk to, and somebody who like actually cares about
Mhm.
like your results. And
Mhm.
um, I'm so glad that you said that you don't just feel like a number, because you're absolutely not. Like I care so much about each one of the clients that I have and that I work with, and I care so much more about, like, I get more excited about your progress than my progress. Like, I hit a PR in the gym, or I lose a little bit of weight or whatever. I see, like, it's cool, but it's so much more exciting seeing you guys succeed and win
Mhm.
than myself.
Yeah.
So I love that. And um anything that you like notice as far as that changed for you physically or mentally or psychologically, that you didn't like expect to happen, or that surprised you, that you're like, well, like I never realized like I could feel this way, or this was even an issue, and now it's so much better.
That's a really good question.
I know I kind of put you on the spot, so
Yeah. Um, something I never this is gonna sound lame, but I never thought I would be an early morning gym person ever in my life. And when I first started this, I was kind of getting to the gym a few days a week, not putting my full effort into it. And I will call myself out on that tenfold. But, then I switched jobs a few months into the program, and I was like, well, if I'm going to work the hours I have and I'm still going to be able to hang out with my husband at night, I have to go to the gym in the morning. And so I made myself get up, as much as I hate it, every day. And I get up and I go to the gym by 5 o'clock, 5:15 in the morning, and I've always been a night owl. I'll go to the gym at 11 o'clock in the morning, never 5 a.m. or earlier. And just the fact that, like, I can physically do that, and mentally, like, if I don't get to the gym, like I didn't go this morning because of the storm, I was like, I feel worse come midday if I haven't gotten to the gym that day. And it's a little weird that I'm an early morning person now. Like,
yeah.
I never thought I'd be that person, and doing this has made that possible.
Yeah, and now it's probably a little bit easier for you to wake up and go in the morning because you know how much better you feel. And
Mhm.
that's also like a really good point, that like these some of these changes, I think, I could be wrong on this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like our program does a great job at easing into a lot of changes, like easing
Mhm.
into things and not just throwing, so
Mhm.
much stuff at you at once.
Yeah.
But like no matter how slow you ease into things, like at first it's probably going to feel like hard, and it's probably going to feel unusual. It's going to feel different because it's something different than what you've always done. But over time, if you
Mhm.
keep doing it, it gets easier. And then eventually you start to, learn how much better you feel when you are doing this. And the same
Yeah.
thing goes for like, um, you know, your food choices that you're making. Like, if you're used to eating a lot of processed foods, you just kind of get used to that feeling of how you feel when you eat
Mhm.
those foods. And then once you start actually choosing more whole foods, start eating the right way, hitting your like staying within your calorie means, and you start feeling really good every single day. And then you have one day where you end up eating a bunch of processed foods because maybe you're like traveling, getting gas station stuff. You're like, wow, like I feel terrible compared to what, I have been feeling.
That is the worst. Andrew and I have realized that, like, every once in a while we'll go out for dinner. We'd almost rather not anymore. because the food's never exactly how you want it to be, but you just feel like garbage afterwards. So at least when you cook at home, you know, it's home cooked and it's good and you feel good afterwards.
Yeah, a
But
lot of times people they get so far into like not taking care of their bodies, not taking care of
mm,
themselves that they don't sometimes they don't even realize how bad they actually really do feel and how good they actually could
mhm,
feel, if they didn't
yeah.
make these changes. Um, so anything about the process at all that like surprised you of the like coaching program is set up or the way I coach or anything that we implemented that was like surprising, like different than what you had previously thought about weight loss?
Um, I don't know. I mean, because I've been in and out of the gym forever, and I've had friends who have done like the training thing, um, but I'd never had the nutrition and the fitness together. I've always had like I got the fitness from a friend, but then I had to figure out the nutrition on my own. Um, so like I don't know. I mean, I guess it all kind of made sense when it was explained and laid out. Nothing really caught me off guard necessarily. Although learning how much protein you should eat and how to get it in every day is very difficult.
Yes.
That was a big wake up.
Yeah, protein is definitely the hardest thing for most people to get in. It's like the two most common things when somebody signs on is their calorie intake is usually too low most of the time,
Mhm,
and then their protein intake is usually too low. So we usually always have to fix those things first.
mhm,
Um, but I think like um, probably one of the most surprising things that I think some people say is just like how maybe simple, I guess it is in a sense, but also
yeah,
like how not I don't know, it's so weird to explain, but how simple it is, but then also how like they never thought, oh, like I should do a diet break or I should like take a break from, weight loss or fat loss for a given
yeah,
time. Like that's another big thing that a lot of people um don't have never really implemented before in their life,
mhm,
like planned periods where, hey, we're gonna choose not to lose fat for a few weeks. That way you can
mhm,
actually lose more fat afterwards.
mhm, yeah. I guess that's a good point that I didn't think about. But
No,
yeah.
it's fine. Um, and we've implemented like a lot of diet breaks for you along the way, and
Mhm,
actually have another one I believe coming up pretty soon here that we
mhm,
plan to do. Because like if you're just trying to constantly like lose weight, lose weight, lose weight all the time, eventually your metabolism is gonna adapt to that, and it's gonna just
mhm,
make future weight loss so much harder. And then also, I think one reason why you've been so successful of like consistently losing or like in maintenance phases staying the same and not
mhm,
going backwards has been like
mhm,
those planned maintenance phases to give you a little
mhm,
bit of like a break and give your let your hunger kind of settle down so you're not so hungry
mhm,
too. And then we
yeah,
kind of jump back into a fat loss phase after we reset things.
mhm, yeah.
So other than the losing weight and you mentioned being able to play with your nieces and not being out of breath, and how has the program like affected your life or your confidence or how you just view yourself in any like other way or any other areas of your life?
Um, I can finally like it's gonna sound awful, but I finally can look in the mirror and I can see that I'm beautiful. That's probably one of the biggest things is I have always hated looking in the mirror, trying on clothes, doing anything like that. And I can finally look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I look good today, and I I don't know, I feel more confident. I don't feel like I have to hide what I look like. I'm finally happy with where my body is going, and I I don't know, I feel beautiful finally as a person, and I've always struggled with that thought my entire life.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that so much. And I'm so happy to hear that you finally are able to feel like that, because you should feel like that, and
Mm.
you should, have that confidence in yourself, especially like with how much work you put in. You've been so consistent. I don't know if you've ever missed a check-in. I could maybe go back. Maybe I don't know if you ever
I
have.
don't think I have. Even when I was on vacation, I
Yeah.
got my check-in done.
Even weeks where like maybe things weren't perfect. Like I don't know if you've ever missed a check-in. You've always been so consistent with that. And I think that's also why you've had so much success too.
I just I always like if Andrew and I are doing something, he's like, listen, we can go do that. It's like, but I have to get my check-in done. Like that has to be done. Like I just need to get it in. And even on the weeks where I have not gone to the gym and not eaten healthy, I'll call myself out on it because like I'd rather be, 100% with you than be like, oh, well, I tried. I'd rather be honest and get that done and, get the check-in done. That way we can keep moving forward. Cause I mean, I'm only 55 pounds down right now. Like it's a great thing, but I do have so much farther I want to go, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. And what was it? It was like, I think, was it last week's or the week before the check-in? Pretty sure you were talking about like, I didn't get my workouts in because I was just lazy.
Yeah.
Like you said that in your check-in, and and that's great, and that's what I want. Like when I work with clients, is I want them to be able to be open with me of
Mhm,
if they hit their goals or not. Like I'm not here to like be a drill sergeant, and I'm not here to
mhm,
like judge. I'm here to be like, okay, this was the plan that I think is going to work best for you to see the result you want. You didn't
mhm.
quite do the plan this week, and that's why like maybe we didn't see the result we want. This
Yeah.
next week, if we want to get the result that we want, we got to
Yeah.
get closer to doing the plan. And then obviously making adjustments when we have to. But
Mhm,
like I'm just there to believe in you, to show you the way, to guide you throughout the way, be there for
mhm.
support, and be there to just like open your eyes and be like, okay, like we didn't quite hit things. Like let's do better next week. And
Yeah.
it's so much easier for me to do that when like you're so open about, like I just chose not to do it. And I love
Yeah.
that. I love when clients own when they have lazy weeks, because you know what? I have lazy weeks some weeks too, where
Mhm.
I don't eat as many vegetables as I want to because I didn't feel like making them. Like I
Right.
have weeks where that happens too. And that's okay. We're all human, but it's just
Mhm,
about acknowledging that, owning that, and then moving forward from there and trying to do better.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, so what would you, as we kind of wrap up, what would you say to someone else who was kind of on the fence about signing up for the program, or, investing in themselves and taking this leap?
I would tell them to do it, and the only way that you can get better and not even necessarily like something that is unachievable, but like just do it. Put yourself first for once because my biggest fear with this was like I felt like I was being selfish for putting myself first because, I am a people pleaser and an empath and I'm like, let me help people, let me do things for others. But, I finally chose to put me first and, my future. And, Andrew told me, he's like, do it. He's like, I'm not going to fight with you about it. Like, this is something you want to do. And it's something that, you know, you think is going to be good for you. He's like, do it, and I've always been really good at quitting. And, I would play a sport and then I'd quit it. And I would do a diet, then I'd quit it. But this time around, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it and I'm going to really do it and just put me first and my health and my future and know that it's not selfish. It's healthy, and it's worth it every single day.
Yeah, I love that so much. And this is the most common thing that I hear from people when, I get on calls with them and they're thinking about signing up or this or that, is they feel selfish, whether it's, the time spent that they, might, go to the gym or this. And honestly, like when you think about the time, you calculate the time you might spend going to the gym or cooking healthy versus the time you spend on Google trying to figure out the best diet. you're canceling each other out, if not saving time. But
Mhm.
people think about the time, people think about the money that they feel like they're spending on themselves when,
Mhm.
oh, they should be going to this or that, especially when they have a family and they have kids. But it's
Mhm.
like taking care of yourself uh is the most unselfish thing you can do,
Mhm.
because when you do take care of yourself, you can be so much better for the people around you. Like,
Yeah.
and you talked about like you're genuinely like happy now. You're happy. And just think about how much better like your relationships are with the people around you because you're happier. And because
Mhm.
you invested in yourself and you put yourself first, you're able to pour into so many people so much more.
Yeah.
Your nieces, playing with them. Like if you wouldn't have done this, you might not have been able to play with them. And now
Yeah.
you're able to be unselfish with your time and go out and play with them and
Mhm.
have them and have a better experience because you
Yeah.
did put yourself first. And like I wish I could just like scream that from the rooftops of like
Yeah.
it feels selfish, but it's not. It's the most unselfish thing you can do. And I do remember hearing listen to a lot of Ed Milet, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, or if anyone else watching is, but he said something along the lines of like you should, I don't know what it was, but it was reiterating the fact that you should always put yourself first, because if you put yourself on the back burner, you're not going to have the energy, you're not going to have the health, you're not going to have this or that to like give back to other people that you love.
Yeah.
So I think that's, if there's one thing that I wish someone like people would take away from all of these lives that I do with, clients or even by myself, is just like, this is not selfish. You will be able to help so much more people. And,
Mhm.
I'm sure your husband's eating habits probably improved since you started this, maybe even his activity habits. I've heard so many stories of like, uh, uh, like one of my clients, Helen, and I'll just point her out. She has done this program and she's doing it right now. And her daughter like wants to do the walking club at school now
That's awesome.
and like wants to be active and it's fun for her now. And it's like her Helen making this quote unquote selfish decision of prioritizing her health is now setting her daughter up to have a really healthy relationship with exercise, a healthy relationship
Mhm.
with food. So it's just giving back in so many ways. And people don't realize that until they actually take the leap and do it. And they realize, wow, this is
Mhm.
actually helping so many other people other than myself.
Yeah. Yeah, just the amount of conversations I've been able to have with friends and family. I even had a friend text me last night. She's like, "So what exactly are you doing after you made your post about our live today?" She's like, "So what are you doing?" And so I was able to have a conversation with her, and I've talked with my sisters and my parents and my grandma. She's always like, "Well, how's it going?" And just being able to have honest conversations with people about it, and people, girls at work, and just we're wanting to all be healthier. And if I can help someone, even just a little bit, that it's awesome.
Yeah. And the thing too is like your story, you losing 55 pounds, and I know your story too, as we continue on, is going to be even more inspiring. Like it's inspiring now, but I know it's going to be even more inspiring. And your story, especially if you share it, has the possibility to inspire somebody else to take that leap
Hmm.
within their self. And maybe it's not even my program or our program. Maybe it's something else that is good and it helps them. But by you making this change, you can rub off on so many other people and people that you might not even know. Like they might just
Yeah.
see your Facebook post, never say a word to you, never DM you or anything, but
Hmm.
your post inspired them to take action. And then
Yeah.
they started improving their health from there. And then that started making their spouse improve their health. And then their kids,
Yeah.
eat better and this and that. And like it could trickle down. And that's why like I want this whole thing to just impact so many people. And I want it to impact, so many people that I don't even know. People
Yeah.
that like maybe that I will never know, but they got
Hmm.
inspired by your story. And it's just, there's so many ways that this decision can be so unselfish because of the impact in how much you can improve so many other people's lives in that way.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I was going on a lot of rants at the end, but it's fun. I love it. So before we wrap up, like, is there any like last minute things you wanted to just say to anybody listening? If not, it's fine, but just anything.
Honestly, we say that it's not selfish putting ourselves first, but be selfish and put yourself first, and just love yourself as hard as it is sometimes, you know, do it for you, do it for, nobody else. Just do it for the fact that you are important and you are worth putting the time into. That's be selfish. Do it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I love it. And I agree. Being selfish in ways doesn't have to be stigmatized. So I like that. Um, cool. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for hopping on here, especially on a little bit later on a Thursday evening. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the next one because I know in the future we're going to do another one when you hit
Mhm.
another big milestone. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that. So thanks so much again. Thanks for everyone who's listening, and we will see you guys in the next one.